Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and on today's program, my Texans 53-man roster projection before the start of Texans training camp. Reminder, rookies and vets will report July 22nd, so that's when we'll have the start of training camp. So I just wanted to take a deep dive looking at this Texans roster and giving some of my predictions on who the Texans might keep after all the training camp practices, after all the stuff that goes down, who will make that final 53-man roster. Before we get started, have some really good news. Another member to the Watt family. Go down, spam congrats. JJ and his wife welcomed a new baby boy, Nico, spelled with a K, not a C, so not named after Nico Collins, I'm guessing. But still, so happy for them, wishing them nothing but, health and prosperity with the new member of the Watt family. If you want to congratulate JJ Watt and his beautiful family, go down and spam congrats in the comments section. As we get into today's show, let's look at the Texans depth charts going into this year. First up, let's look at this one, the Texans QB depth chart. Not a lot to look at, right? It is what it is, right? We know Stroud's QB1, Davis Mills QB2, and then Keaton Slovis, Graham Mertz. I don't have to go through a ton on this depth chart with you, right? Look, it's CJ Stroud. I don't think they're moving on from Davis Mills. So it's simply the only decision I had was, were the Texans going to keep three quarterbacks on the roster? And I don't think so. I think they're going to keep two. I think it's going to be CJ Stroud, Davis Mills, and then they'll have Graham Mertz on the practice squad, either him or Keaton Slovis. But for today's purposes, I just had them keeping Graham Mertz on the practice squad. Now, let's go into the Texans running back depth chart. I believe this is a depth 3, though. I might have mislabeled a couple of them. This one, let's look at the Texans running back depth chart. Yeah, there you go. Joe Mixon, RB1. The new member of the Houston Texans, Nick Chubb, is RB2. But a lot of decisions to be made when it comes to this room right here, right? Who do you keep on the fullback? Who do you keep as your RB3 and RB4? Do you only keep 4 guys on this screen right now, or do you keep 5? For me today, because I only kept 2 quarterbacks, I'm going to keep 5 guys, and I'm switching it up a little bit. I have Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, I have Woody Marks, and then I have Dare Ogunbowale because he's a do-it-all kind of guy, a guy who can help you out a ton in special teams. And I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this. I went with Jakob Johnson. He has some experience with Nick Caley, was with the Patriots before, has some experience as a true fullback in that position. So in this instance, I have them keeping Jakob Johnson as their fullback and having 4 running backs on the roster. Obviously, they traded up for Woody Marks. He's going to make the team. Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon. And if you're talking RB4, you need somebody who's going to help out in special teams. And I think Ogunbowale is going to help you more than Dameon Pierce. And the question is, what happens with Dameon Pierce? Because as it stands right now, without any injuries to this Texans team, I don't think there's really a place for Dameon Pierce. Obviously, a lot of Texans fans, me included, had high hopes for Pierce. We all saw him his rookie season, those, runs where he was just absolutely barreling over guys, and he was a tough runner, somebody who you wanted to root for because he played with a ton of heart. But at the end of the day, with this Texans team and how it's configured, I don't think that there's a spot on the 53-man for Dameon Pierce. So I'm going to ask you this question. What is the most likely outcome when it comes to Dameon Pierce? Are they going to cut him, trade him, or do you think that he will slip into that 53-man and make the team? You get hit with the YouTube ad break here. All good. Scroll on down and give me your answer. What will happen with Dameon Pierce? Now, we've seen a lot of trade rumors. My buddy who runs our Cowboys channel, Tom Downey, made a video about the Cowboys possibly trading for Dameon Pierce. If it is, it's going to be a situation kind of like how the Texans got Christian Kirk, right? They traded a 7th-round pick for somebody that the team was already going to cut. That's the only way I see Dameon Pierce being traded. I think the most likely option, and the sucky one for Texans fans, is that he's going to get cut. Now, let's go to the wide receiver room and look at this room because this one is going to be very contentious at the back end, right? Because you have the 4 guys that you see their faces on screen. I think those guys are locks to make this roster. Obviously, Nico Collins, the 2 rookies, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, Christian Kirk, who they traded for at the beginning of free agency. but the rest of the names is kind of mismatched. I went with them keeping John Mechie and Justin Watson. I think Mechie, if he can give you something in the kick return or punt return game, can be valuable to this organization. And Justin Watson, DeMeco Ryans made it a point to call him out specifically as somebody who has put in a ton of work this offseason. And, maybe call me crazy, but the past 3 seasons he's been on a Super Bowl team, a team that has made it all the way. Now, I know it's with the Chiefs and he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before that, but still part of winning traditions. So I, for this exercise, kept Justin Watson on my 53. But there's obviously other guys that are on the roster bubble, right? You have Xavier Hutchinson, who a lot of Texans fans like. Braxton Berrios, who was brought in to maybe be that punt return, kick return specialist. That's why I kind of mentioned it with John Mechie. If he can show something in the punt return, kick return game, the Texans don't necessarily need Braxton Berrios and Alex Earl. But maybe they do. I don't know. For right now, if we can, get some kick return, punt return duties from Mechie, he can take Berrios' place. And then Jared Wayne is another guy on the roster bubble. And I know a lot of y'all give him a lot of flack because he was part of that Tank Dell injury. But still, I think this team does like Jared Wayne and what he brings to the roster. I know the one name that everybody is going to ask about is Tank Dell. He'll be on the IR. He's not going to be able to play anytime soon. I think the earliest that we see Tank Dell is in December. So, week 13, 14, 15 maybe. But that's if everything goes well. I'm still praying for Tank. I really hope that he's able to get better. But the start of the year, we shouldn't even have Tank Dell on our mind when thinking of the beginnings of the season, the start of the 2025 season for the Houston Texans. Let's go to the tight end room now, where, Nick Caserio, new offensive coordinator, he's a tight end guy. How many of these guys is he going to keep on the roster? Dalton Schultz, underwhelming last year after getting a contract extension. The Texans also drafted last season Cade Stover, C.J. Stroud's buddy from Ohio State. You re-signed Brevin Jordan as well after his injury last year. Luke Lachey, you drafted in the 7th round. And Irv Smith Jr., you brought him back on a vet min deal. I have the Texans keeping 4 guys. Dalton Schultz, Cade Stover, Brevin Jordan, Luke Lachey. Maybe they don't need 4 tight ends. Maybe they keep 3 and Luke Lachey and Brevin Jordan fight out for that last spot. I think it's a lock for these top 2, though. Dalton Schultz, Cade Stover, they're going to make the squad. It's really going to be between Brevin Jordan and Luke Lachey. Right now, I have them both making this team, but if they only keep 3, it's going to be between these 2 guys to make this roster. Now, the offensive line is something that touchy subject for a lot of Texans fans. At this moment, this is my starting Texans offensive line depth chart. Cam Robinson, Laken Tomlinson, Jake Andrews, Titus Howard, Ariante Ursery. I have them slotted in, but all these guys, their names are written in chalk because any of these guys can be replaced at any given moment because nobody has a solidified spot on this Texans offensive line. And that's why, call me crazy, I'm keeping 10 guys on the offensive line. And I know it might seem, like some overkill. It might be, a little bit too much to keep 10 offensive linemen on the roster. But you have Blake Fisher. I don't think they're going to get rid of him. You have Juice Scruggs and Jarrett Patterson. Maybe one of those guys gets traded away to a offensive line needy team if Jake Andrews does end up being the starting center. Trent Brown is another guy I'm interested in. If he's healthy, I'd like to have him on this roster as a backup option. And the last guy on there that might be the biggest surprise on this Texans team, Jalen Thomas. Look out for him. This is the year of Jalen's for this Texans team, right? They took multiple of them in the NFL draft this year. But look out for him. He was getting some reps with the second team during OTAs, and I know it's just OTAs. They're not wearing pads. But still, his one, concern is he able to stay healthy? And if he's able to stay healthy, I think he could be a nice depth piece for this Texans offensive line as a, guard, tackle, flex type of player. Now, coming up, I have my defensive projections for the 53-man roster. We'll get into that in just a moment, but quick word from our friends over at Fanatics. If you need a brand new Texans hat this summer, the sun's out. It's getting hot. It's heating up right now. You can get one of these draft hats or any of the hats that are scrolling right here available right now. If you go to chatsports.com/Texans hats, a lot of them are on sale at the moment as well. So if you want to get some cool Texans gear, maybe get some good prices. The Salute to Service one's pretty dope as well. They also have the secondary logo for the Houston Texans. All these hats available right here, chatsports.com YouTube.com/Texans hats. That link will be available in the comments section and description of today's video. Go check them out today. Our friends over at Fanatics. Go make sure you use the links though, so they know that we sent you over there. Go get a cool lid with our friends over at Fanatics. All right, to the defensive side of the football, we're going to look at the defensive line now. And this unit, the whole defense is just insane for this Texans team, but the defensive line is stacked, right? You have, I have them all on there, defensive tackles and defensive ends. And then Tim Settle, obviously, I have him slotted in as a nose tackle spot. But the starters on this team, arguably the best defensive line alongside the Philadelphia Eagles in the entire National Football League. First, let's look at the interior. Let's look at the defensive tackles. And I have them keeping 5 guys. And the beauty about the Texans' offensive line is they have a ton of tweeners on this team. You have Tim Settle, Foley, Futakasi. They're more guys that you're going to keep at defensive tackle. They're going to play, nose tackle in front of the center. They might be shaded on one of the guards, but they're not going to kind of venture out to the defensive end, right? These 3 guys right here, Sheldon Rankins, Mario Edwards Jr., Denico Autry, they're kind of tweeners. They can play on the outside if you need, probably a little bit better at that 3 technique, defensive tackle position. But they have a lot of positional flexibility along the defensive line, which DeMeco Ryans, Matt Burke absolutely love. So I think that this Texans defensive line, because they have so many tweeners, are going to be able to keep a couple less defensive ends than defensive tackles. But one name that you might have noticed that wasn't on that list, rookie Kyonte Hamilton. And I know that might come as a shock to a lot of people, but Jeremy, the Texans drafted him. What do you mean he's not going to make the roster? Why did they spend a draft pick on him? Well, a little secret, a little trick of the trade. Just because you get drafted, especially in the 6th or 7th round, does not mean you're going to make the team. Hell, look at last year. Marcus Harris did not make the final 53-man roster. There were multiple guys who were drafted by the Texans last year that made 0 impact on the team. So just because Kyonte Hamilton got drafted by this Texans team does not mean he's going to make the 53-man roster. He's not guaranteed a single thing. So I want to hear from you folks at home. Do you think all the Texans rookies will make the final 53-man roster? Little spoiler, he's the only rookie that I don't have making this team. But it's worth noting. Let me know what you think down below. Do you think all the rookies will make this final 53-man? And as I mentioned, because of that positional flexibility at the defensive tackle spot, I'm only keeping 4 defensive ends on this roster. Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, Derek Barnett, and Darrell Taylor, which an amazing unit right here. Both these guys, the top pass rushing duo in the NFL, in my opinion. And you might have 2 of the better depth guys around the league. Derek Barnett, 2 defensive touchdowns last year, was incredible subbing in for Anderson and Hunter. And Darrell Taylor, he's been surprising some people. He's somebody who has bounced around from team to team, played with the Seahawks, played with the Bears. But I think as a rotational guy, he is a very good piece on this Texans defense. Let's look at the linebacker room now, though, where for the most part, the Texans run 2 linebacker sets. It's the modern day NFL. Teams are trying to spread you out. So for the Texans in their linebacking room, I think for the most part, they're going to run with 2 guys. They're going to run with Azeez Al-Shire and then either Henry Toto, Christian Harris, or EJ Speed. I have them keeping 5, though, because they signed Nick Niemann towards the beginning of NFL free agency, and I think he's a piece that, Frank Ross, the Texans special teams coordinator, is going to want to keep on this team as a good special teams guy, another linebacker that you can add to this unit right here. I think that they end up keeping 5. Christian Harris on the last year of his rookie deal, I think he still makes this roster. In a prove-it year, I expect a lot out of Christian Harris, and maybe he can deliver as, this is kind of his make-or-break season in the National Football League. EJ Speed also somebody who the Texans really liked signing away from AFC rival, the Indianapolis Colts. Let's look at the defensive back room now, where kind of like the defensive line, I kind of have it where it's the entire secondary up here, right? The entire defensive back depth chart. You have your 2 starters, Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter on the cornerback spots, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Jalen Petrie, Kalen Bullock. This will be your starting 5, especially when the Texans run that, 4-2 base defense that they like to run. Let's start with the outside guys, though. Let's look at the cornerback room. Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, and after Ronald Darby retired, I thought the Texans were going to go out there and look for a, really good depth piece, a, bigger name. They ended up only signing Damon Arnette. And I don't have him making this roster. And I think they signed a guy like Damon Arnette because they have a lot of faith in rookie Jalen Smith out of USC. He has a lot of connections with this team. Hell, Kalen Bullock was at his draft party when he got selected by the Houston Texans. So I think they're trusting him to be a, CB3, a backup guy to Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter. They like what they've seen out of Jalen Smith. Miles Bryant was on the team last year. And Tremon Smith, sort of just like Nick Niemann, he's a special teams ace, can also help you as a rotational corner as well. And then I have the Texans keeping 4 safeties on the roster. Kalen Bullock, CJ Gardner-Johnson. This might come as a surprise. I have them keeping rookie Jalen Reed and MJ Stewart over Jimmie Ward. And the only reason for this is he has these legal battles, right? He has this legal issue that he's dealing with right now. And it's kind of starting to bleed into Texans training camp, preseason. Will they keep Ward? I know he's very close with DeMeco Ryans. Was one of the first free agents that DeMeco brought to Houston when he got hired to be the head coach of the Houston Texans. But he's on the last year of his deal. He's dealing with these issues. Is it something that you want to deal with for somebody who's not going to be a starter on this team? I don't necessarily think so. So for right now, I have them not keeping Jimmie Ward on the roster. But if he's vindicated like his attorneys think he will be, if he is proven innocent, I could also see the Texans end up keeping him on the roster over MJ Stewart. But if there's some anonymity there, if they don't know what's going to go down, I could see them keeping MJ Stewart over Jimmie Ward. And then the special teams unit, Tommy Townsend, the punter, Kaimi Fairbairn, the kicker. And then they recently released their other long snapper. So it looks like it's Austin Brinkman's job to replace John Weeks for the long snapping duties. That is your Texans 53-man roster projection. Obviously, I broke down some names here and there that didn't make my final 53, but here are the other guys who just missed the cut besides a Jimmie Ward, besides a Dameon Pierce, also Ed Ingram on the offensive line, British Brooks, fullback, Kyonte Hamilton, that rookie defensive tackle, Dylan Horton at defensive end. He was one of the guys who I was kind of battling with right there. Do we keep 10 offensive linemen? Do we keep an extra defensive end? I think if you keep 9 offensive linemen, Dylan Horton will make the squad as a 5th defensive end. And then Damon Arnette as well. As I mentioned, somebody who the Texans signed after Ronald Darby retired. But do they keep him on the squad, or do they roll with the rookie in Jalen Smith as being the cornerback 3, the backup guy behind Stingley and Lassiter? These guys just missed the cut for my final 53-man roster. Well, that's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you made it to the end of today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button for free Texans content all year long. The latest news, the latest rumors around the squad, I got you covered. So all you got to do, go down right now and hit that subscribe button.